Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is Kurt, your host, Schmidt List. I've got one of my great friends joining us, Benji. We're going to talk about all things networking. So, all right, let's meet my friend Benji. Benji, how are you?
I'm great.
I'm doing fantastic. So, Benji, tell me about the work you do and who do you do it with?
Yeah, so I'm building out a brand new practice, something that I haven't found out in the industry, but really technology leadership, interim fractional advisory as kind of the engagement models, but more importantly, really creating an avenue for technology leaders to bring their services to market in a different way, but help business solve problems. And it's been 10 months of just been great.
That's great. Well, and we're going to talk about business building here a little bit because a big part of that is networking, right? And referrals and all those things. So, Benji, I grew up, I was the son of a minister. And so I learned networking at a very early age because my dad built a number of churches in town, and he never took out an ad once to get people to go to the church. To me, networking was a perfectly natural way to find the things that you want and provide value back to other people. Tell me a little bit about your journey with networking. How did you, was this something that you were always just a extreme extrovert and you were just jumping in front of people as they were going down the street saying, "Hi, I'm Benji," or were you more of an introvert?
Yeah, I'm definitely more of an introvert. I'm very introverted. My friends are in a small group, but have deep connection. And so the prospects of networking were daunting prospect and driven by a career.
Yeah. Well, it's very common, right? You find people that find themselves in transition and they realize, well, this whole submitting resumes thing isn't working, and there's a bit of a mind shift because I talk about this a lot, is that a lot of people think that in life you have either best friends or you have coworkers, and there really isn't much in between. And to me, I never looked at it like there was sides to things. It is all shades of gray. You had mentioned when we were talking earlier about having sort of a mentor through this process a bit, right? So I think that's really key, is that it's not easy to flip that switch by yourself, right?
Yeah, one of the pieces of advice that I consistently give my kids is you want to surround yourself with people that are pro you. And pro you doesn't necessarily mean that they're always boosting you up, but they're invested in helping. I think for me, out of necessity, I was let go from a job as a CIO, and I knew that finding the next job was going to require networking. And so I had reached out to a former boss who I had when he was in transit, but I knew he would likely be willing to help. And so, I reconnected with him when I went into transition, and I'm like, all right, give me the lay of the land. How do I even start? Like, I don't want to go and, as an introvert, go into this big room of people and try to inject myself. Like, that's the furthest thing that I wanted to do. And so he was great. He gave me everything from what are the resources to how do you think about networking. Yeah, he connected me with some of Uber networkers in town, which was a great first soft landing spot to start working my way through it. But yeah, definitely having someone on your side of the table was really important.
Yeah, I find that once you get in with the right group, especially some of the super connectors in your local area, it can make it a lot easier because you've got not only those people that are interested in connecting you, but you can sort of learn by watching a little bit, right? You can see how they're going about things, how they're messaging people, how they're talking to people. And I think that's also key, is that there is the whole, well, I'm over the introducing myself part, but now what do I say part, which is where a lot of people get stuck. How did you process that, Benji? How did you eventually become more comfortable with those initial conversations and making them of value?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a journey and a growing experience, right? I read the 20-minute networker. I had conversations like these. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to be really prepared. At one point, I even outsourced to my kids. I'm like, I've got all these meetings. Will you go and look at theof LinkedIn profiles, see who we have in common?
Go and stalk them.
And, I think one of the things that I recognized was, people will want to help, right? They've accepted the meeting. And I think that crossing that mental hurdle is an important piece of kind of going, all right, let's work our way through this. And then I just continuously checked in with myself, and I recognized, I've got skills, I'm talented, and so but I don't need to answer the traditional questions in a traditional way of what size company, what industry, those type of things. For me, it felt really reductive, and I'm like, you know what? I need to find a way that feels more authentic, and so there's a kind of process of continuing to check in with myself and go, did that feel like the type of conversation that I wanted to have? Is that how I wanted to talk about myself? And I think that led to, just really showing up authentically, which I think if there's any rule of thumb that I would say, it's just be yourself.
Yeah, literally be yourself. And because that's how people are going to remember you, because the more you're like other people, the more you blend in and the less you stand out. And then the less you stand out, and I don't mean stand out in like sort of a, look at me, I'm wearing a pink bunny outfit sort of way. Right. I mean, you just rise above just a little bit, just enough that you can be top of mind to those people when opportunities come along, because I love giving referrals and handing out opportunities. I think it's super fun. And so, but I can only, have so many people top of mind for so many things. So if they're not staying in touch with me, if it's not reciprocal, right? It's hard for me to, be timely with those things, because that's how we, a term that I've been using a lot more lately, along with the new book, is kind of how we engineer serendipity. Mm-hmm. Because again, it's like luck, right? It's like you have knowledge and you have good timing, and that's how you sort of generate these things. And so I look over the years at building a $20 million agency, and 90% of the work came in through referrals. Mm-hmm. So, but that wasn't luck. I mean, we worked and mm-hmm. building out a name for the company, a reputation for the company, knowledge about what we did and who we were and all those things. And that's not a thing you do just for one organization. You're doing it for yourself. And so people are thinking about you that way, right, Benji? So again, you're in the position now where you've worked at a lot of places, and now you've got your own thing. I'm sure those lessons have really helped you over the years be more confident in doing what you're doing now, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think there's a couple of things that stand out there for me. I have come to really enjoy connecting and helping people. In every conversation, just about everyone, there's probably a few exceptions. I'm like, look, I'm here, I'm available. I'd love to share my experience to the extent that it can help. And 95% of people, maybe even higher than that, kind of are one and dones. And I'm like, well, that's just a missed opportunity to share the network that I've built and I'm very proud of. And so I think, there is work happens to do that. And, when I look at where I am now, I wouldn't have been able to do this 3 years ago without a network. And so I've gotten to the point going from that introvert that didn't want to do it to one that has intentionally wanted to have it as part of the role that I'm doing. And, and it's, it still takes time. Building a business in that way is, as building a business at $20 million, like it doesn't happen overnight, but, you see the generosity and people that help around town, and I want to be a part of that, and I want to be an integral part of that. And so, the opportunity to build and maintain relationships is one that I think is a big opportunity that is often missed.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's talk about that though. What's your general approach these days to initial conversations? Because I know a
Yeah.
lot of people listening love to get tips on, like, what do I say, right? I mean, I'm there to try and make a connection, but what do I say to do that? Because it's good to say be yourself, but like give me a little bit of a script here. Hey, to start from to be myself, Benji.
Yeah, to me, it's curiosity. I mean, that would be one phrase that I would use. And, it is a bit of a feeling out process to know, what is someone wanting to share. And, sometimes I'll often start with, when people ask, say, tell me about you. I don't talk about my work to start with. I talk about, my family, what I do with my time, what I enjoy doing. And I think there are times, more often than not, that kind of opens up the door to a more personal conversation, which is the ones that I want to have. If I feel like I'm pulling a conversation along, I'm still going to be curious. I can recall one networking meeting that I had while I was in transition, and I was about 15 minutes into it. I'm like, this is going horribly. Like, might be one that I've had, and felt like I was just pulling it along, and I was about ready to punt, and I recognized that she had this big bookshelf behind her, and I'm like, what are you reading? What's on your mind? What are you reading right now? And that led to a really interesting conversation. And the next day, and she actually posted about it on LinkedIn. That one question was just a subtle change in the conversation that got her interested and stimulated. And so if I hadn't been curious, that might not have led to anything. It might not have amplified my brand, which I needed at the time to find a new role. And so curiosity is the right approach.
Yeah, I think it is too, because again, the key to networking, and I say this in my networking book, is the first rule is you got to get over yourself. So I know you have needs. I know you have an agenda. I know you want something out of the connection, but all that has to come later. You have to put all that to the side. And the goal is to really try to connect and see, because to your point, if this person was not pleasant to chat with, I can imagine any referral she'd give you could be to other people that are not pleasant to chat with. Well, and would not be a good fit for you. So it's this kind of waste of time, because we talked about this. You're surrounding yourself with people that are like yourself and looking for the same thing. And if you're talking to someone that has a very different agenda, has a very different approach to the way that they help people, life, all those sorts of things, if they are because I run into people all the time, Benji, that are like, I don't like networking because it feels transactional. And I was like, well, then you're meeting the wrong people, right? Because you and I will run into people that are transactional, and that's okay. Like, hey, they're just trying to do a job, whatever, that's fine, but not for me, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a limited view, right? I mean, I think, and I honestly, I give people a lot of grace in that part, and I've done it enough now where I can sense where's someone at, right? And particularly when you meet someone in transition, you can kind of tell, are they just getting started? And, at that point, I want to normalize their experience, because I had that same experience of, I didn't know how to do it. I was trying to find my way. And so I can meet them there and just go, look, let me share a bit about my experience in doing this. And to the extent that it helps, I enjoy that piece of it.
Yeah.
And so, I definitely think kind of navigating that requires a little bit of awareness of how the conversation's going.
Yeah, for sure. And that's the thing, is that people will have one bad experience and then be like, okay, this isn't for me. And it's like, no, just like anything, just like riding a bike, sometimes you're going to fall down. Like, it's okay. Like sometimes there's people out there, like you said, that are not as mature in their careers or professions, where they don't understand how this is supposed to work, right? It's like LinkedIn, for example, is, people ask me all the time about digital networking and things, right? I did a speaking event recently where somebody in the crowd said, well, I don't connect with people on LinkedIn unless I've met them in person. And I was like, that's 2015. Like, we don't do that anymore. We meet with people and connect with them digitally now too. And yes, every once in a while when you connect with those people, you're going to get hit with a wall of text about them pitching some services or whatever. And that's fine. I don't, they're just doing a job. It doesn't bother me. I just move on and don't reply. But so many people are like, like that just ruins my day. And I was like, really? Does it? I don't think it does. Like, just get over it, and move on. Sometimes you're going to get lemons when you're out trying to get lemonade, and that's so it's a process, right? Not, every ball that gets thrown at you is not going to be a home run, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I tell people, in your personal life, you don't connect with everyone that you've met, right? Like like sometimes there's just a vibe and you connect well, and other times there isn't. And that doesn't mean that they're invaluable or less than or anything like that. It's just human nature. And so expecting that, everyone that you're going to meet, you're going to go have a beer with and, go to a Twins game is an unrealistic expectation. It might be 5 people if you meet 1,000, but that's worth it too.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Because I through that network, exactly what you just described, through that networking, I have not only grown friends that I'm closer with in my immediate colleague support network. And these are people I'm friends with. We talk about family stuff. We talk about, all sorts of things, right? But do I invite them to my daughter's wedding? Probably not. But that's not the point. Like,
right.
The point here is that we are out looking out for each other the best we can, because they know you're out there looking out for them. And so it's a great piece of insurance to have, because your career is going to last for much longer than the job you're at right now or the work that you're doing these days. And so this is a way to invest long-term into your personal success, not just to bring business into the company you're at now, not just to find that next job, not just to get that next promotion. This is a lifelong process. And once you understand that, and you can get over your, I'm sorry to say it, it can be a lot of fun. I've never learned so much in my career as I have through my network.
Yeah. Yeah. I mentored some kind of fresh out of college salespeople, and they're going, I've got these sales targets. How does networking fit into that? And, what I landed on was, what's the worst case outcome from having a networking meeting? Well, the worst case outcome that I came up with was, you've met someone else, they find you interesting, they correlate that with the business, and that's valuable for everyone, right? It's valuable for the business that you're in, it's valuable for you, it's valuable for them. And, one of the things that I recognized after coming out of the career transition was, I was a CIO before, and you'd think we can solve all of the problems. Well, we can solve the problems that we know how to solve. And
yes,
I remember I'm like, okay, I have this specific problem to solve when I was in that chair, and I didn't know where to go. And so I texted an old boss and I'm like, hey, I'm looking for this. And he responded with a couple of names. And when I after that career transition, when I landed, I was so much better at my job. I mean, I was able to solve problems like that, from hiring someone that was in North Carolina in 7 days to 3 different companies that I had met during transition that I brought in to help with specific things, and did phenomenal work. And I had this relationship with them, and so my ability to do my job, simply because of the network that I built, was off the charts.
Yeah, especially in a leadership role, right? Because again, the thing that, and I hope that especially, companies, growth-oriented organizations are looking for is not just what you bring yourself to the table, but what you bring with you, right?
Yep.
It's not just that experience, but it's those connections, it's that network, being able to plug into that. It can be a huge game changer for organizations. And if you can show that you have this large network and that you're just automatically, I feel, going to be a much more attractive resource for that organization, especially the more senior the role.
Right. Yeah. And that's, I think my perspective would be that salespeople are looked at like, okay, they're the ones that have to have the network.
Yeah.
When the reality, they can.
Yeah, right. Well, and with that, that's the funny thing too, is because especially like certain salespeople, you think after they've been around for a while that they've got this book that they bring, right? And this isn't the 50s and the 60s anymore. Like that book is as good as it was in the last job and that bit. But to your point, you brought it up, a huge part of it is recruiting, right? Is finding the talent to make your job that much better, your company that much better. And that network is going to be huge, especially if you want a leadership position, because you're going to be reaching out to your network like, hey, I need somebody. And what I've seen more and more these days is that people are foregoing this 9-week hiring cycle of like 15 interviews and all these things, especially the more mid-sized, fast-growing companies. They're looking for people to start in 2 weeks. They're not looking for, 4 months of interviews, rounds, 3rd interview, 14th interview, Myers-Briggs test, all that stuff. Especially the more confident leaders, right? They come from a better school of like, hey, hiring is guessing and firing is knowing. So just go, let's get it done, right? And so I think you're in a better position if you can show that when they hire you, you're not just getting access to Benji, but you're getting access to Benji's network. That's going to create a lot of value in the organization in terms of hiring, potential sales, all those sorts of things. So that's why I say, like, it's an investment in your career, not just an investment in your job that you have right now.
Yeah. I mean, when I had this job opening, I had a path was mandated, right? It was, all right, meet with our internal recruiter, tell them what you want, tell them what you're looking for, craft the job description. And so, you've got to do those things. But, then the immediate process was, okay, we're going to start screening candidates. And I was probably 3 weeks into it. I'm like, okay, I'm spending more time reviewing resumes, trying to make a guess. And so I'm like, okay, I am not getting any closer to filling this role, and it's taking me longer. And so I posted it out to LinkedIn, which is not rocket science, right? But I think what I realized in that was, okay, now I'm getting referrals from people that know me, know how I work, and they're putting their credibility on the line by recommending someone.
For sure.
And so the quality was that much higher. I put it out on a Monday, had 5 referrals by Monday night, met all 5 of those people that week, hired someone on Friday. And the person that I hired, like I mentioned earlier, was out of North Carolina, or not North Carolina, Columbus. And he was by far the unicorn for what we needed. And I know that gets a lot of bad press, but like he had been in the industry, he had been a buyer of our services, and so he knew what our clients were looking for, and it was jackpot.
That's amazing because again, so you said like I know a lot of companies that go unicorn, and what they usually find is just horses, horns duct taped to their heads. But in the referral business, I mean that's where you really can find you gotta know somebody who knows somebody. And that's the thing. So the last question I want to ask you, Benji, if you were to give advice to someone in transition now to start growing their network, where would you say they should start? Should they start on LinkedIn? Should they join some of these professional groups? Because I know our friend Rick Copeland has mentioned there's, 60 some networking groups in town, just in Minneapolis alone. I can't imagine it's out there. So how would you give somebody advice on what to choose, which path to get started on?
Yeah. I think I tell people frequently, I'm like, I don't want to give advice. I want to share my experience, right? And I think that because there's a lot of advice and there's a lot of different ways that you can go about doing it, and finding your path through is the right approach, right? In my mind, figuring what that is. For me, in retrospect, it was finding the person that I knew well, that had gone through a career transition or had built his network well. That was the right starting point for me. I think, in retrospect as well, the people that I expected to help me, that I knew had good networks, they hadn't been through a career transition like I was encountering. And so they didn't, like some of the norms that are that we all enjoy, they didn't have them. And so I would say, there's lots of people that have gone through career transitions and have leveraged networking to do that. Find the ones to you and use them as a sounding board and kind of a rudder.
I definitely, just like you said, Benji, in your experience, start by reaching out to the people and asking them for, how have you found jobs? How have you networked? And, listening to a podcast and watching YouTube videos and things are one thing, but actually talking to people who've been there, done that, I think is really powerful. Benji, well, I could chat with you all day, but we got to end the show. So if I want to get in touch with you, if I want to learn more about what you're up to, where do I find Benji? Where do I go and connect with you?
Yeah, so Benji Borner, it's a kind of a unique name, I think. You can find me on LinkedIn. Ascendixconsulting.com is another place to go to get a sense for what we're up to. But I'm always interested in, like I said, having interesting conversations, meeting new people. And feel free to reach out and reference that I was on the Schmidt List, which has been on the bucket list for a while. So thanks for having me.
Good. I'm glad to help fill that bucket. I appreciate your time, Benji. Thank you for joining me.
Awesome. Thanks, Kurt.
All right, everyone. Thanks for taking it to join me. One last plug of the book. It is available now. Go check it out on Amazon. Thank you for taking time out of your week to join Benji. I hope you learned something new, because I did. We'll see you next.